in a few months' time, I'm going to be spending some little chunk of time in the woods with some other people, just 3 days. But we're going to be eating 100% wild food, and that's either food we can forage while we're there, or some wild food that we bring with us as to kind of supplement our diets. And over the next few months, I need to do a bit of preparation to see what kind of food I want to bring. Like I said, everything has to be 100% wild, and it's obviously got to be something that's like preserved and that keeps well. And the food that I've landed on is pemmican. I'm going to make some pemmican. Pemmican is a Native American survival food, effectively. I guess survival is quite a broad term, but it's basically a really long-lasting, really high protein, high fat bar, which lasts, if it's made right, can last for years. And apparently it's kept some indigenous communities in the Americas going for a long, long time on some trips. Effectively what pemmican is somewhere between like an energy bar and biltong. Of course, it's all 100% natural, and you get the meat from whatever animal you want to use. In my case, I'm going to use deer. I'm going to use venison. You dry the pieces of meat over a fire traditionally, or smoke it. I'm going to do it in a dehydrator. You then smash up all that meat, that really dry, crispy meat, into a powder. You then get the tallow of the animal that you've got the meat from. In my case, like I said, deer, so I'm going to get deer tallow. You melt the deer tallow down. You add the dried meat powder. Then you add whatever extra things you want, seeds, berries, any of these things, some salt maybe, and then you pour it into a mold and you let it set. And then you're left with like kind of a fatty, salty, proteiny slab of really high nutrient dense food. And that's what I'm going to make, and I'm going to show you how to make it in this video. I've never made it before, but I'm going to run you through how I'm going to make mine. I'm in the woods today because I'm going to get some nettle seeds. I want to load mine up with nettle seeds. I'm going to do bilberries, and maybe going to make some salt from the sea, and who knows, whatever else I come across that I think can be good in it. But I'm going to start with nettle seeds, and that's today's little mission. Let's go, come on, bring it. I really love nettles. They're one of the first plants I connected with. They occupy a big chunk of my heart. It's currently July, which means that it's kind of starting to pass the time for harvesting the leaves, and coming into the time to harvest the seeds. A lot of the nettle plants have already gone to seed, and I'm going to show you which ones to pick. And yeah, that's it. Nettles are, I think, what they say is, I think the term is dioecious or dioecious or something. I don't know the official word, but it means that you get male plants and female plants, and you want to be taking the seeds from the female. I'll show you the difference between them now. At first they can be quite hard to tell the difference, but eventually you get it. It is quite obvious, really. And nettle seeds are really amazing food. I don't know any of the specifics, but I know that nettles are actually really high in fat. Whether the seeds are as well, I'm not sure. But people say that nettle seeds can give you a lot of energy. Now, if you're not a coffee drinker and you're not someone who has like a consistent caffeine habit, apparently if you were to eat a lot of nettle seeds in one go, you'd get quite a serious buzz. I think at some point I'm going to try making some kind of nettle seed coffee or something like that. But I think they're quite a powerful food, and gearing up for this time in the woods, I've not drank coffee now for coming up to 3 weeks, and I haven't had that long of a time off. I haven't had that long off coffee for a long time. So I'm quite tempted to see how. Well, I'm quite interested to see how these nettle seeds affect me. Whether they give me way more energy than I'm used to when eating nettle seeds. You know, I'm actually quite nervous for my immersion into the woods of eating just wild food. No, I know I do this on Instagram, but you know, I'm a very domesticated person by most accounts, and my diet for all of my life has been very domestic, and of course it's becoming wilder and wilder as I get into a lot more of this. But you know, still eating sugar and caffeine and have these dependencies. So when I kind of go into places where it's don't have those things, I definitely have a fear that comes up. Don't know if you can even see me there. Is that quite dark? Yeah, I definitely have quite a lot of fear of time away from these vices and these crutches that I've used to like numb myself for so many years. And time away from technology, time away from sugar, caffeine. I'm definitely someone who eats emotionally and habitually, and yeah, the next few months is not just going to be about the food and the practical change, like pragmatic steps to kind of prepare myself for this time in the woods, but it's also going to be about the internal shifts and getting clear enough so that I can really listen to the woods while I'm there and feel like I don't have so many like negative voices in my head. This boy keeps bringing me sticks. Whenever I start speaking to the camera, he always finds the biggest stick he can find. He must think I'm speaking to a person. You know, look at the state of this. Look at the state of this. A lot of ash in this forest, lots of ash dieback. I think this is a piece of ash dieback. Oh no, maybe not. Oh no, this stick is simply too big, my boy. Off you go. So this is the difference between the male and the female. On the left is the male and on the right is the female. I'm pretty sure the male that's flowers. I could be wrong, I'm not a botanist, but that's flowers and that's seeds. The male ones are like they're almost fluffy and they're little round balls. And the male ones are like bishop helmets, like bishops from a chess game. They're kind of slightly pointy and they're a bit more like a bit of a kind of a pointy shape to them. I'll show you how they hang off the plant. Yeah, that's the male ones, kind of round, soft, fluffy. And then these are the female ones. They're kind of, like I said, much more bishop helmet shaped. And they hang much heavier off the nettles. They're like much more clumpy and they just look like a more droopy, heavy kind of thing than the flowers or than the male ones. If you're finding it hard to find nettles that have gone to seed, have a look for nettles that are in the sun. Generally, the ones that have been in the sun for the longest amount of time, they've gone to seed earlier. There's a big, nice one here. I've got some gloves on, got some of these snippers, and I got this bag that I'm going to fill with a load of nettles, and I'm going to take the whole plant, not from the root obviously, but from just where the seeds stop, because I can use the stalks for something else, for cordage if I want. And you just want to be harvesting nettle seeds that are kind of green or purplish. Once they've gone brown, apparently they've gone too far. So stay in the green purple realm. Thank you, Nettles. So I've just hung up all the nettles on this sock hanger, and it will mean all the seeds can dry. And I'm in a really hot conservatory. Like I said, it's the middle of, well, it's almost just turned August today. And so it gets really hot in this room, so these seeds should all dry out really well. So the nettles have been drying in the conservatory now for a couple of weeks, maybe even longer than they should have been. But anyway, they're ready to come off, and I'm going to put them in a little jar before making the pemmican. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that yet. I'm sure there's an amazing technique somewhere, but I'm going to just like try and sprinkle them all off and get them into a jar. I've decided this brown paper bag is quite a good way to go while they're hanging here. Yeah, it seems like it's pretty good. There might be some leaves that fall in there, which I can kind of take out after, but it doesn't matter if there's a bit of leaves in, I don't think. I'm wondering maybe if I just do this. Yeah, that's working. Now, there is still quite a lot of leaves in here. When I was shaking it, a lot of the leaves still came off. So what I've got is a colindery sieve thing and a tray underneath. I'm going to pour it all in there, and hopefully the seeds are all going to fall through and the leaves are going to stay in there and it will separate them out. Let's see. Wow, there's quite a lot of seeds. See how many seeds are in there? Excellent. Yeah, I think you can't really use the leaves once the plant has gone to seed, because apparently they're not that good for you. I can't remember why they're not that good for you, but it's recommended that you avoid them. Like, I don't think you'd have to eat quite a lot for it to be harmful, but when the nettle is seeding, the seeds are what you want, not the leaves. It's quite a substantial amount of seeds, really. Definitely a good jar's worth. So the next thing I'm going to be foraging for the pemmican is blackberries. Here we are. Some lovely blackberries. And I don't know how I'm going to dehydrate these. I've heard that if you dehydrate them in a dehydrator, they don't stay intact very well. But that being said, I'm sure they're still going to be great. So I'm going to pick a load of these for the pemmican. So I've just blended all of those blackberries. I'm going to turn them into fruit leather, because apparently dehydrating blackberries, if you just put them in whole in the dehydrator, they just turn into little hard rocks. So I'm going to make fruit leather and then grind up the fruit leather, or smash that into chunks and then put that in the pemmican. So now we're on to the meat that I'm going to use for the pemmican. I've got a saddle of venison here. I think the meat and the blood's going to run everywhere, but there we are. And I'm going to cut it into really thin slices and put it on these racks and put it in the dehydrator. I guess the thinner I go, the quicker it will be to dehydrate. Wow, it's super tender. It's actually quite hard to cut. I've heard somewhere that if you cut it while it's frozen, it actually makes it easier. Maybe I should have done that. But here we are now. I guess having a sharp knife would help as well. This knife's not very sharp. Now, I've never done this before, so I don't know how long it's going to take. But I'm going to go for 50 degrees for like maybe 24 hours. I'm going to put it on for 24 hours. I'm going to keep continuously check it. And the place that you want it to get to is so that when you take a piece, it doesn't like bend, it completely snaps. It needs to be that brittle so you can smash it into a powder. Basically needs to be as dry as you can get it. After it's done, I can let you know how long I reckon it's taken to get to the place it needs to be. So it's 12:30 right now. I'm going to put it on and yeah, keep checking it. $50 degrees, and yeah, just get it for 24 hours. Oh yeah, who knows? So the timer on here is saying it's been just 30 minutes shy of 24 hours at 50 degrees. And I've been checking it continuously. And look, if I take a piece out there, snapping, completely snapping in half. That's where we want it to be. So this is done. So now we've got our super fine meat powder. And it kind of looks like brown sugar, but smells a bit like fish. Quite a weird combo. It's good though. So next it's just to add it all together. And the thing we need to bind it is this, which is wild deer fat, tallow. And I'm going to melt this down and then put all of our other bits into it. So obviously we've got the ground up venison saddle. We've got the blackberry fruit leather. We've got nettle seeds. And because I don't have any wild salt, I've only got like bought salt that actually it probably is wild, to be honest. I got like Cornish sea salt. It probably is wild, but as a replacement to that, I've got some ground up kelp that I'm going to put in, which is really salty, obviously, because it's from the sea. And I'm going to use that as my substitute for salt. I think it's going to be a weird tasting pemmican, but maybe that's fine. So that's rock hard in there. I think I'm going to struggle to get that out. So I'm going to fill this with water. And put that in, and hopefully that should melt. So you want to make sure whatever tallow you're using, there's no liquid content still in the fat. If there's still pockets of air and water in the fat, it's not going to keep as long. So this has still got its heat on it, and I can see no bubbles rising to the surface, which means that the guy who made this has rendered it down really well. And this is ready to go because it's just a completely clear liquid. Okay, now we're ready to start mixing it all together. I'm going to start with this, the dried meat, put it in this bowl. And then bit by bit, I'm going to stir the fat into the meat until I get the right consistency. Start with that, see how that goes. Now, nettle seeds. Go in with a bit of this. There's definitely a few dog hairs in there. Perfect. Not wild. It's definitely helping absorb the fat. It got a bit like slightly sloppier than what I wanted it to be. Now with the blackberry fruit leather, I'm going to tear it into little pieces. And so it's had none of the kelp in yet, none of the salt, but I'm going to give this a little taste. I'm pretty into that. But I really like umami things, like meaty, fatty things. But I think with an addition of a bit of saltiness could be really, really good. Kelp. Okay, another taste. More kelp, I think. Okay, yeah, we're there. That is really good. There's definitely some funny bits from the nettles in here still, but... Right, next step is to put this in the fridge and to let it set, so then we can cut it into bars. It's been in the fridge for a few hours. Gonna cut it up. There we are, out in one hit. Slightly more crumbly than I hoped it would be, but there we are. I think I need to use more fat next time. Okay, so that's the video. It's more crumbly than I'd hoped, but it's still going to be fine. I didn't use enough fat, so it hasn't come out in really like thick bars, but this is my first attempt, and I'm going to try a little bit with the crumbliness. Okay. It definitely tastes like survival food. It tastes healthy, that's for sure. It tastes super full. This is a great thing to take with you when you're kind of going out hiking or into kind of a wilderness environment or somewhere where you're going to be outside for a long period of time, that you need something that keeps for ages, doesn't need to be refrigerated. It is really calorie dense, high in protein, high in fat, and is made of all kind of local, natural, healthy materials. Sorry, healthy, local, natural, healthy ingredients. That's the word. Like when you think of things like the boil in the bag food that you take hiking and stuff like that, like I would rather take this than that. And I've heard the other thing you can do with this is add it to water and boil it down in a pot, so it turns into a bit of a stew as well. So just a super versatile, healthy thing to carry out into the woods. Yeah, that's the video. Thank you for watching, guys.